dead man walk in. And I'm always slightly fearful when you turn your back on something, you know, that has brought joy and happiness to, you know, tens of people. Did you get anxious when you sort of finished, you know, Spaced and stuff like that? Did you sort of, or was it a decision out of your hands?
Well, I don't think it's kind of. We didn't make that decision when it happened. It's not like when you guys finished The Office. It was like, okay, let's call it a day here.
Yeah.
We decided after the second series to do something else because it was so tiring, and it was quite a sort of thankless task making that show as much as we loved it. And we thought, well, let's do something in our sort of hiatus. Let's do something else, and we made Shaun of the Dead, and then that kind of just went a bit crazy after that, and so it you know, that hence always is there going to be a third series of Spaced. We get asked that even now because we never really said that's it, that's over. So I do regret that we never got to do it, and we absolutely probably won't do anymore. But I didn't have that moment of thinking, wow, I'm now turning my back on something which did me very well. You know, it's always kind of been out there.
When you did Spaced, were you always aware of the sort of slightly making it for, as we said before, the nerd fraternity, the geek fraternity? Although obviously it had people from all walks of life who enjoyed it. You know, there was a lot in there. Yeah.
I mean, we kind of set out to make a show that was very, very specific. You know, and to speak to people on a really personal level, and you know, you have to specify to do that. You can't be, you know, you can make jokes that maybe 3 or 4 people will get, but you know those people are going to get it so intensely they'll probably, you know, devote the rest of their life to the show.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that we just thought, let's write something specifically for 20-something kind of, you know, people who are in that weird period of their life when they don't have to settle down, but they still feel like they're a part of their, you know, in their childhood, and it's quite a weird sort of millennial phenomenon, that whole thing of being grown up but not, you know. And so we aimed it specifically at them.
Do you miss that part of your life? Because you're like a family man now with kids, aren't you? Do you miss that part of your life where you'd sit around, presumably in your pants, playing video games?
I thought I would, but I don't particularly. I mean, it's interesting when you're doing it. You think, oh, this would be great if you could do this forever, but then, you know, eventually you just think, oh my God, I'd rather do something.
Oh, don't tell me you're getting fulfillment from raising a child and being married with a beautiful wife.
I'm all over that stuff.
Good. What questions have you got for me?
What are you doing now?
Just doing the radio shows.
I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing when you finish the show?
Working on a film project.
Are you pushed? Were you pushed, or did you leave?
I genuinely was hoping to begin the show rather like DLT. Do you remember when DLT resigned on air with that kind of pompous, you know, things are happening at the BBC that I cannot approve. Music. But actually, I don't have any agenda. It's just
not what it used to be.
I got too much going on, and it doesn't pay well enough.
Are you working with my arch enemy, the fat idiot Ricky Gervais?
Yes, is he your arch enemy?
No, there was some story in the papers recently that we were having a big row because I called him, in quotes, a fat idiot.
Right, but you'd call him that to his face, surely?
Of course, absolutely, as he would me.
Yeah.
But suddenly there was a kind of a slight attempt to try and music for both of us.
It's one of those things, isn't it, where it's like, what I find strange is the way that you can be a comedian and your job is to make jokes, most of which are not to be taken seriously, but somehow once you become a famous comedian, now that sort of is not taken as read anymore. So Ricky will make a joke on stage, which will be reported as his real opinions.
Which, let's face it, is.
Well, of course. But, you know, generally speaking, it's something very perverse about that. We should start maybe something now so we can get in the papers. I mean, it could help you boost the film. You're going to need to get people in to see that.
Yeah, just some horrible, vicious kind of... you know, there was a story in The Sun, I think it was, on Tuesday after the Star Trek premiere that said that Chris Pine, who plays Kirk in the film, stormed away from the premiere because I was getting all the laughs on the red carpet and in the film or something like that. And so he shunned the party and stormed away. And it was like, what? I understand kind of like maybe knocking people down when they're getting a bit big for their boots, but he's literally only just stepped into his boots.
Yeah.
You know, why have a crack at him? He's a lovely man. He came to the party, he had his picture taken with my mum.
Yeah.
It was like, he's not like that.
But what kind of a man as well would be that upset that no, I'm not going to the party. Peggy was getting laughs.
Know, it's ridiculous.
I'm going to sit in my hotel and watch filth. I have no idea if that's what he does or would do. I apologise to him. Simon, we have a series of questions that we ask all of our guests, rather like James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm up for that.
So just your first reaction, please, to these questions. What would you ban?
I ban? Meanness. That's what I ban. People being horrible to each other.
Meanness.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I was hoping you'd say racism, but there we are.
Well, I think that comes under the umbrella of meanness.
I mean, this is too broad. What advice would you give your What advice would you give your teenage self?
God. There were people I'd probably advise myself not to get involved with. You know, the tough element. When I went down the dark alley. Tough times for me.
Did you spend a lot of time with ne'er-do-wells?
Yeah. You know, ne'er-do-well is the root of the word nerd.
Is it really?
There's a fact for you, yeah.
That's interesting, because I always imagine ne'er-do-wells to be really cool and sort of streetwise.
Well, there you go, you see. They are, and they're nerds.
I have long held this belief that when I was growing up, nerddom was, you know, it was very fringe and it was not cool. It was frowned upon. And it seems that now nerddom has become the mainstream. And actually, I, for instance, am not a fan of Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. These are all huge phenomenons that, in our day, you know, we'd have been jeered and mocked at school for liking.
Sort of clubs that would take place in the maths room at lunchtime.
Exactly, exactly. And now it's a huge global phenomenon.
It's true. It just goes to show. Well, and also the words like nerd and geek have been reappropriated to be positive terms, and I think it's good. People are out and proud about liking science fiction and stuff.
Well, people like us have worked hard, rather like lesbians and black people, to you know, I'm very much like the Chuck D of my generation. I'm taking back those words. Yeah. If you could jump into any film and live the life depicted in that film, which film would you choose?
Oh, definitely Nil by Man.
If you could exchange lives with anyone, who would it be?
You.
What past deed would you like to go back and change?
Past deed that I've done or someone else?
That you've done.
I wouldn't be so mean to my girlfriend that when I went to university and I sort of like went to a different town and I was like, I don't need you anymore, and I think I was a bit of a bugger to her.
Oh no, that's horrible.
You know, yeah, I do regret that.
Can someone get the son on the phone? And finally, and I'm taking this directly from Lipton,
Go on.
if God exists, when you get to the pearly gates, what would you like him to say?
What would I like him to say to me?
Yeah.
I told you I exist, probably, to be slightly gloating.
Sure.
I really don't think he does.
That's exactly what God would do, wouldn't it? Gloat.
See, I told you.
Simon, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You really are do you know what? You're a special kind of guy.
And you are.
Thank you. Which tune would you like us to play from the last 2 years by way of celebration?
I think I'd like to listen to Invaders Must Die by the Prodigy, because I thought that was quite a lovely comeback for them, and it really gets back to that squelchy, banging sound that they thrilled me with 10 years ago.
If people said Pegger was a nerd, he's proven them wrong once again by choosing the Proj. Thank you very much, and all the best with Star Trek, which, as I say, is released, May something? May the 8th. All right, we'll look forward to that. Thank you. Round of applause for Simon Pegg. Come on.
Thanks, guys.
Simon Pegg's musical choice, Invaders Must Die. The Prodigy, of course. Steve Show 6 Music, penultimate programme. Sammy, let's have a musical choice from you. Let's keep this music rocking. Hang on, let me turn you up. Oh dear.
Ineptitude.
Yeah, I don't care anymore, do I?
No. I had it narrowed down to 12 songs. It's been that hard to kind of pick something. But I chose a song that linked back to our old producer, Mental Jude. She introduced me to this band and nearly took me to see them live and then didn't at the last minute, but never mind.
That's a hell of a story.
It is. It's a brilliant story. And also, as well as picking my favourite musical choice from the last 2 years, I've worn my favourite dress from the last 2 years.
Oh, that's sweet.
So that's just for you boys. So this is Cipher for Fashion by Of Montreal.
Sammy's musical choice on this penultimate Steve Show. Sammy, what was it?
That was Cipher for Fashion by Of Montreal.
Thank you very much indeed. Lovely tune.
It's brilliant, isn't it? I think it's a bit like ELO's Mr. Blue Sky for the new generation.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all.
Don't feel ashamed of that.
No.
Lovely dress, lovely tune, lovely lady. All right, smooth. So, guys, looking back over the last 2 years, happy memories? Are you going to look back fondly? What's your diary entry going to be today, Rufus?
Steve, I let slip to you off air that I have been not keeping a diary religiously of every show, but the other day, with a large cold drink in my hand, I sat down and wrote down some of my favourite sessions and memories of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you going to share those with us today?
I haven't got them with me today. Well, I hate to disappoint you. I'll bring it in next week.
Yeah, well, make sure you do it next week, otherwise we really might be in trouble. You'll have to put it on your blog. Do you write a blog?
No, I don't. Do you think I should?
I think you should do that to continue some kind of continuity after the programme finishes.
Yeah.
I think a Rufus blog would be... Oh,
Really?
the nation would adore it. The kind of advice you could offer.
Yeah. All my thoughts about the new music I've been listening to during the week.
The new
All
music.
the gigs I've been to.
But also just your take on world events. You know, would be... I'm sure we would love to get your take on perhaps the London Marathon. I'm sure you've got some strong opinions on that.
All I know is I've been asked to sponsor about a mile of the London Marathon and various other sponsored events, and the most ridiculous thing I was asked to sponsor was a friend of mine emailed me yesterday. Would you mind if I'm doing it on Sunday? Sorry to email the day before, but I'd really appreciate sponsorship. If the 12-kilometre walk from Richmond to Hammersmith, I may stop in the pub on the way. Any money would be, you know. You're going on a long walk on a sunny afternoon.
Yeah,
you might
you
go
might
to
stop
the
in a pub.
and you want me to give you money to do that? Nah.
Isn't Katie Price, a.k.a. Jordan, running the marathon?
Is she?
With Andre.
Really?
They're
Wow.
doing it together, yeah.
That's a sports bra I don't envy. Man alive. This may not seem a very trendy or left field or rock and roll choice, but one of my favourite albums of the last 2 years was the last Shadow Puppets album. I thought it was just tremendous. One of those albums that just really should have disappointed. It seemed like a sort of indulgent side project, the, you know, Morricone-style strings, the 60s vibe. But I really do think they pulled it off. There's some cracking tunes on that album. I keep going back to it. And one of my favourites from there is this one, The Meeting Place. Last Shadow Puppets, The Meeting Place, from that fantastic album that came out, I think, was it last year? Yeah, tremendous. You were a big fan as well, weren't you, Sammy?
Huge fan. It's a marvellous album, especially for driving, as Rufus pointed out.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. It's that kind of high-class perceptions about music which has made us a show that has filled up 2 hours every week for the last 2 years. I'm very pleased because Cast Your Tone for the Painfully Alone are live in the hub after the news. Plus, I'm sure we will look at some of the lovely correspondence that's been coming in on this, our penultimate Steve show. Back after the news. One of the much discussed albums, of course, during our tenure on the show was Radiohead's In Rainbows, which came out in October 2007. And then a bit later, Rainy Days Remixes came out by Oakland hip-hop producer Amp Live, and that was a tune from it. Videotape. Originally, the Radiohead people tried to stop it and ban it, but eventually an agreement was reached. And so, yes, you can find that online, you can download it and the like, and you won't get in trouble. And that one featuring Del the Funky Homo Sapien. There's also Charlie Tuna's on there and various other people. So there we are, Steve Show 6 Music, our penultimate programme. Look at young Sammy there, looking melancholy.
Rufus just had to take me outside because I was crying a little bit.
Oh no.
I'm going to be a wreck next week.
You are, aren't you?
I think it's best not to give me a mic and just let me sob quietly in the corner.
I think, you remember a couple of weeks back we gave you a little can of beer? I think we maybe should get onto the hard stuff next week. That would be particularly funny. Have anyone else got that slight feeling of when you've handed in your notice, you're just working it out, you kind of don't care anymore, you're still at work, you're sort of tapping the keyboard and making it up, but basically you don't really care. Get Andrew Sachs on the phone. Come on.
Well, this kind of happened to me obviously a few weeks ago at work, and you do feel a bit giddy and lightheaded, and yeah, you do tend to be a bit random.
You must be thinking suicide now. I mean, you've lost 2 major gigs in the space of a month.
My world's pretty much fallen in.
Sure.
I've lost my actual proper job that actually paid my way, my mortgage and what have you.
Yeah.
And this job, which didn't really pay for anything, to be honest.
Got you out of the house, though.
It got me out of my house. It got me a bit of fresh air, you know, chilling with my pals on a Sunday. But yeah, that's gone as well. I've not got a great deal to look forward to. I'll get a job. How? There aren't any jobs.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so I'm going to be sitting in and listening to whoever's unlucky enough to try to fill our boots on a Sunday.
Such depressing news, given that there is already much sadness, you know, in the air, and also possibly some kind of killer flu.
Oh, swine flu.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm sorry to be the harbinger of more bad news.
It's actually something Heidi from Hamburg in Germany's picked up on. She emailed in saying, "How can you be so cruel to Harry? He's already